Good evening, everyone, and welcome to GCCISD Board of Trustees meeting. The date is July 13th. The time is 6:06 p.m., and I call this meeting to order. Mrs. Guy, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
Thank you, madam. And do we have a quorum?
We do.
Thank you so much. Today's opening exercises will be conducted by Mr. Kevin Foxworth. Mr. Foxworth, the microphone yours. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good evening, President Campese, Dr. Rodriguez, and school board members. We will begin with the opening exercise with a prayer led by Ms. Tiffany Guy. Following that, the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge will be led by Mr. Jesse Martin. Will everyone please stand?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve our students, families, and community. Grant us wisdom, unity, and clarity as we make decisions that impact young lives. May our discussions be guided by fairness, respect, and a shared vision for the future. Bless this meeting and all who are present. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, you may be seated. Okay, at this time, let me introduce Dr. Espinoza, Director of Education Foundation and Partnerships, and Mrs. Lewis, ExxonMobil Baytown Area Socio-Economic Manager.
We kind of went out of order, Mr. Foxworth. Let's back up, and I'm sorry, Dr. Espinoza. We'll go to citizens' participation next. It's the law. Citizens' participation is the time that the board will hear public concerns or public comments from those who have properly signed up to address the board. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. General public comment is limited to no more than 30 minutes per meeting. At all other board meetings, public comment shall be limited to open session items on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. Each speaker is reminded that he or she is limited in his or her presentation to a maximum of 3 minutes, which can be further limited or reduced by the presiding officer, and that he or she should respect confidentiality concerns and refrain from attacking personal character of any individual student, staff member, or board member in addressing concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy be illegal, the board cannot consider or take action on concerns at this meeting unless they pertain to an item on a posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. Mrs. Garcia, you advise we have 14 citizens signed up to speak. As the president of the board, I have the presidential privilege of allowing every speaker to either have a full 3 minutes or limiting it to extend no further than 30 minutes total. As the president, I'm going to grant all 14 speakers the full 3 minutes. Mrs. Guy will keep time. When you approach the podium, introduce yourself by your name, the subject you'll be speaking on. Mrs. Guy will begin taking time at that moment. When you get down to 1 minute remaining, Mrs. Guy will chime in and simply say 1 minute. At the end of your time, Ms. Guy will advise you that your time has expired, and I ask you to stop speaking at that time. With that being said, our first speaker is Brian Walenta. If I pronounce that correctly, Mr. Walenta, please proceed. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Good evening, board members. My name is Brian Walenta, and I teach at Robert E. Lee High School. First of all, I'm not going to speak on anything that's on the agenda, and I'm not going to ask for any funding. So I just wanted you to know that first and foremost. I'm starting my 25th year at Lee High School, 41 overall. And first of all, I'd like to say 41 and done. So I'm going to retire at the end of next year. My 25 years here, I've seen a lot of things in the Goose. I've seen good and not so good, and I've seen us grow tremendously. And during that time period, I've seen that we have a problem, a growing problem, and it's called a we problem. We the teachers, we the students, we the faculty, we the community, we this, and everybody's pointing fingers at each other about whatever is going on. And I've seen that grow. And I wish to make a proposal that to solve this problem, we need an us solution, an us, all of us coming together. And I do have a proposal. It doesn't need to be voted on, but it does pertain to the board and central office to start with. My proposal is that each board member and each member of central office volunteer 3 hours a month to go into the public schools, to elementary, junior high, or high school. If you go to the elementary school, help them with spelling, help them with reading, get to know them. And then and if you're a central office person who had taught it one time, you can go teach that subject. I would never do trigonometry. That's why I'm a social studies. But at the end of that time period of working with that student, write a note home. It was so nice to work with your child today in spelling or math or whatever. Sign Mr. Campisi, President of School Board, or Dr. Rodriguez, Superintendent of Schools. And when that goes home and that parent opens it up and sees, what? The board member sat down with my child today
1 minute
for spelling or math or whatever. That starts to break down that we barrier, and it starts to create an us. And pretty soon, who knows, your employers might go, you know what, I'm going to go with you. How about some others? How about our staff members do that too? We need to create an us solution to break down these we barriers. So that's from a person who's been around for a long time. Communication and public support is extremely needed because this community is growing, and we all need to be working together, and in not just we, but an us. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Walenta, and thank you for your service to our district. Our next speaker is Desiree Klaus. Ms. Klaus, welcome, and the microphone is yours when you're ready.
My name is Desiree Klaus, and as a parent with children in GCCISD, I don't believe this local governing body should be indoctrinating our children by revising the dress code and district appearance standards through the public school system. The district has created a future policy that tells not just the students, but parents too, how their children should present themselves at school or in society, creating policies of what is appropriate and not appropriate to wear based on their gender. Having two boys that are growing at lightning speed, it seems at times they are in need of two things: fuel for their brains and bodies. And if you're a boy mom like me, you can relate. That should be our top priority, fueling their brains and bodies. And as a parent, I'm focused on my kids getting the safest quality public education possible too. I would like the district to do the same. Let's focus on students' future safety for all students, providing quality education and building support and resources for their future. Something simple as making sure their students are fed with quality food in our schools. Have you seen the food in our district? It has been proven students don't do well in school when they are hungry. It has also been proven when students don't have support system or mental health resources, they act out. We've seen firsthand how attire and dress is not a distraction to a child's education. Some of the smartest, brightest male students have graduated at the top of their classes wearing long hair and even facial hair in this district. As a community, we should be concerned about the safety of our children. We cannot afford to continue to ignore the red flags and deeper issues our students have presented to this district. The behavior of students can become unsafe for themselves, their classmates, and staff is not addressed quickly and appropriately. But instead, the district has decided to focus on whether a male student is wearing long hair, nail polish, earrings, facial hair, or even dresses or skirts. We need to redirect our focus, making sure our students' safety is first by providing mental health services, cultivating safe spaces for students to express themselves without fear of judgment from their peers or staff. Some will say this policy will set them up for success for their future workforce environment. Not all students will graduate from high school or looking for 9-to-5s. Some will work in the oil and gas, while others may become artists or entrepreneurs or even join the military. We truly don't know, but it will be their choice. So to revise a dress code so strict that even myself, who graduated in 2001 from GCCISD, never truly experienced, God forbid the girls show their shoulders. Wow. This policy is missing the mark. Please focus on the safety of our children, mental health resources, and mentorship programs to help them navigate their possible future workforce environments, cultivating a community where they will not be judged by their fits, but by their work ethic and character. Remember, we grow giants here. Time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klaus. Our next speaker is Wybra Holland. Ms. Holland, remember to introduce yourself and the subject you're speaking on, please. The microphone's yours when you're ready.
Hello, I'm Wybra Holland, and I'm speaking on the dress code. Good evening, Board of Directors and Dr. Rodriguez. I want to begin by thanking you for updating the student dress code, which I hope will apply to the staff as well. Schools do much more than teach the 3 R's. They also help prepare students for life by teaching responsibility, respect, and the importance of following rules and meeting expectations. The truth is that dress codes are a part of everyday life. We see them in businesses with no shirt, no shoes, no service policies. We even experience them during the COVID pandemic with mask requirements. Many employers, the military, and other professions also have standards for appearance, whether it's uniforms or other types of clothing, hairstyles, hair colors, piercing, or visible tattoos. A school dress code teaches students an important life lesson. Different places have different expectations, and learning to adapt to those expectations is a skill that will benefit them in college, in the workplace, and throughout their lives. Many of the values that I live by today were reinforced by my teachers throughout my 12 years here in Goose Creek CISD. Those lessons help prepare me not just for school, but for adulthood. Thank you for your time, your service, and your continued commitment to our students. I appreciate your leadership on this, and you have my full support.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Our fourth speaker is Marga Matthews. Ms. Matthews, you may proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, President, Trustees, Superintendent, and members of the Board. My name is Marga Matthews, and I am here tonight to express my full support for the proposed 2026-2027 Goose Creek dress code. First, I want to thank the administration and the staff for taking the time to review and strengthen this policy. It is clear that these revisions were thoughtfully developed and to create a safer, more respectful, and more focused learning environment. Our schools exist for one purpose, to educate students. Every minute teachers spend addressing dress code issues is a minute taken away from instruction. By providing clear expectations, this revised policy eliminates confusion and gives administrators consistent standards that can be fairly enforced across the district. I especially support the additions that prohibit pajamas, bedroom attire, beach sandals, pool shoes, and other clothing that simply is not appropriate for the classroom. Schools should prepare students for college, careers, and life. In nearly every workplace, there are standards of appearance. Teaching those expectations begins in school. I also appreciate the expanded language regarding modesty by prohibiting excessively loose, revealing, and see-through clothing, as well as clarifying standards for shirts, shorts, and footwear. These changes help keep the focus where it belongs, on learning, not on distractions. The revisions addressing gang references, face coverings intended to conceal identity.
And detailed grooming standards also enhance campus safety. Parents deserve to know that schools are doing everything they reasonably can to maintain an orderly and secure environment for every student. While some may disagree with certain provisions regarding hairstyles, jewelry, or tattoos, I believe schools have both the authority and the responsibility to establish reasonable standards that promote unity, professionalism, and respect. Students still have countless opportunities to express themselves through academics, athletics, fine arts, leadership, service, and their character. This policy is not about limiting individuality. It is about creating a culture where every student understands that school is a place of learning, responsibility, and preparation for adulthood. I commend the board and district leadership for having the courage to set high expectations. High expectations communicate that we believe our students are capable of excellence, not only academically, but in how they present themselves and respect their school community. I respectfully urge you to approve this revised dress code. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your continued commitment to the students of this grade. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Our fifth speaker is Nicholas Rice. Mr. Rice, the microphone is yours when you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Nick Rice. I'm here on two topics to invite you to a meeting tomorrow night and to talk about the dress code. So I'm Nick Rice, and I serve as acting president for Citizens for Strong Education. I want to take a moment to remind everyone about our community meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Luby's Restaurant here in Baytown. These gatherings are designed to bring parents, students, educators, and community members together for constructive, student-focused conversations. We've had really strong participation over the past few months, and we would love to welcome even more voices to the table. I'd also like to speak briefly as an individual regarding the dress code presentation you'll hear tonight, not about the merits of the changes, just to share a few thoughts with you. So standards in our schools are not about limiting students. They're about preparing them. They help set expectations, build confidence, and teach students how to present themselves in environments where first impressions matter. As someone who works as an HR manager and regularly hires high school age students for entry-level customer service roles, I see firsthand how important these skills are. Too often, students come into interviews unsure of how to present themselves, how to communicate professionally, or how to meet basic workplace expectations. And that is not a failure of students. That is a signal that we as a community must do more to prepare them. A thoughtful dress code can be part of that preparation. It reinforces the idea that school is a place of purpose. It helps students practice skills that they will need the moment they step into the workforce, whether that's interviewing, interacting with customers, or representing any organization. Expression is valuable, as is creativity, but structure and standards are valuable too, and they can coexist. We can support individuality while still giving students the tools they need to succeed beyond graduation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Our next speaker is M.J. McDonough. Thank you, sir, for the pronunciation help on that.
Hello, board. My name is Michael Joseph McDonough. Many call me MJ, and I ask that you do the same today. I'm entering my senior year at Goose Creek Memorial High School.
Mr. McDonough, let me interrupt you. If you would speak clearer into the microphone, this is going to end up on YouTube and an audio, and we want a clear counting of what you say. If you would go ahead and start over.
Is this good?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Michael Joseph McDonough. Many call me MJ, and I ask that you do the same today. I'm entering my senior year at Goose Creek Memorial High School. I'm here to speak on the new proposed dress code. I'm speaking on the behalf of myself, my peers, and the future giants of Goose Creek Consolidated Independent School District. This proposed dress code began spreading around on Wednesday of last week. Within hours of circulation, this new dress code, it was met with outrage, and rightfully so. There's a few things from this dress code that I would like to highlight. Firstly, the changes to male students. As you can see, I have long hair down to about the top of my back. I've been growing out my hair for the past 6 years. My hair brings me confidence, joy, and I carry so much pride in it. This new dress code would force me to cut my hair to about where the collar of my shirt sits. 6 years of progress because my school district decided in the last year to change the rules. Next, I want to point to the topic of piercings. This new dress code would disallow male students from wearing earrings, while the female side would be unaffected. Both hair length and the wearing of ear jewelry are restricted on male students, but unrestricted on female students in this proposed dress code. Is this district trying to say that they do not view these students as equal because of the self-expression? Next, I want to point to the topic of facial hair. Men grow facial hair extremely fast at this age, particularly Hispanic, indigenous, and students with high testosterone. So to ask many of these students to shave their faces every other day or almost every day is awful, and it puts the health of their skin at risk. I also want to point to the fact that this dress code blatantly states that it will restrict student gender expression. In a district of many LGBTQ students, myself included, I find this a discriminatory policy meant to target transgender and gender nonconforming students because of how they want to live their lives. This district sees them as disruptive. Coming from someone who has seen students express themselves freely at school because they cannot do so at home, it is terrible to see from a school district whose motto is building giants. How can you build giants when you are knocking down the ones that do not conform to your standards? I have never once found myself distracted by a student's appearance when it comes to hair length, color, jewelry, facial hair, or how they choose to express their gender in their life. It's none of my business. So I hope after hearing this, you will think about the dress code and understand how awful and abhorrent it is affecting the students you claim to care about. This district's problem is not how students dress. You have child safety issues in these schools. Our district is in the lower 50% of school districts with a C overall average. Thank you, one. A 40% math proficiency score and a 43% reading rate, as stated by Houston Chronicle, Baytown Sun, and TexasGov.gov. You have safety issues in these schools, but you choose to focus on how these students look. I find that extremely disappointing. There are so many other problems that could be addressed, but you choose the one that should have been bottom of the list. So I hope after seeing the upset, the petition with over 2,000 signatures, and hearing from the students, this will affect how you decide to make the right choice. For a district that wants to build the future, you seem to be set on pushing back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. Speaker number 7 is Iris Coker. Did I get that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome.
Hello, I'm Iris Coker, and I'd like to talk about the dress code here today. The number one priority of any school district should always be ensuring safety in school campuses and strengthening students' ability to learn. However, in this latest era of GCCISD, the priority seems to instead be draining individualism and taking conformity to the extreme at the expense of students' well-being. While many would agree that the old dress code presented by the district was flawed, it was at least simple and allowed people to be able to reasonably express themselves in a way that made them feel comfortable. The new dress code proposed for the upcoming school year, however, is unreasonably convoluted and recklessly limited to the point where I've heard a lot of people complain that the vast majority or a significant portion of their wardrobe does not comply with the new regulations. Having to replace a large portion of your wardrobe, especially in today's era, can be very economically taxing in a way that not all families can afford. When you combine this with the utterly ridiculous standards set on male students' hair, which for many people would require them to get a new haircut every 1 to 2 months, we are now talking about not only a large one-time expense, but a repetitive, constant, and frankly pointless expense that families will now be forced to pay in order to comply with district policy. Whether intentional or not, this is blatantly classist and is entirely contradictory to the point of public schooling. Free education, easily accessible for everyone regardless of their background or economic status. Furthermore, this policy is sending a horrible message to students that is regressive and upholds the wrongdoings of the patriarchy by enforcing strict gender rules that punishes and shames students if they stray from these strict lines. People should not be made to feel like they are forced into a stereotypical girl clone or a stereotypical boy clone. You are not only teaching the students in your district to reject unique aspects of themselves, but you are also teaching them that it's okay to shame those who do not fit into certain hyper-specific stereotypes based on their sex. I know the argument has been presented that this new dress code is preparing people for the future careers, but the notion that companies have this restrictive of a dress code, especially when it comes to minute details such as hair, is shrieking a lie for the vast majority of jobs and careers students will find themselves in. Additionally, a lot of people have noticed that the styles reflected by the new dress code seem to predominantly reflect common LGBTQ styles and quite explicitly targets trans individuals with comments such as males can't wear skirts, which the vast majority of people who are assigned male at birth aren't doing unless they are trans. Comments saying males can't wear fingernail polish, have long hair, or wear any sort of ear piercings seems to indicate the same message. Whether or not this is the intention of such comments, which seems to be, and to be quite frankly honest, that is kind of cruel if it's the case, these regulations will no doubt harm trans students attending GCCISD, as even the little things such as growing out your hair and wearing nail polish can be a huge help to trans individuals struggling with dysphoria. These regulations will overall make LGBTQ students feel more alienated than ever before, and furthermore, even people who aren't LGBTQ will have their sense of expression muffled, which will overall be a massive hit to a lot of people's confidence. This equates to lower mental health of students across the board, which further equates to poor academic performance across the board, which GCCISD should care about, seeing as it's a school district, not a military boot camp, like the dress code seems to suggest. This is extremely disappointing and obviously very regressive and should be the exact opposite goal of a district who wants to work with its surrounding community to make a more effective, safe, and welcome learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. Speaker number 8 is Kayla Rodriguez. Welcome. You can begin when you're ready.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kaya, and I would like to discuss about the new dress code. I understand that schools need rules and that maintaining a learning environment is important. However, I am concerned that this proposed dress code focuses too heavily on student appearances, while many students and families are worried about much larger issues. Students are being told what hairstyles they can have, what colors their hair can be, what jewelry they can wear, and how they are allowed to express themselves overall. Before adopting these restrictions, I would like to ask a simple question. What problem is being solved? What evidence shows that banning unnatural hair colors, male earrings, certain hairstyles, or oversized clothing will improve grades, attendance, behavior, or school safety? These rules are not just hypothetical to me. I dye my hair every year, and I normally wear baggy clothing. Under this proposed policy, I could be disciplined simply because of how I choose to express myself. I come to school to learn, complete my work, and participate in my education. My appearance does not prevent me from doing any of these things. I am also concerned that several of these proposed rules specifically target male students. The policy restricts things such as makeup, nail polish, earrings, facial hair, hair length, and certain forms of dresses for male students. I would like to ask what educational purpose these restrictions serve. How does a male student wearing nail polish improve or harm academic performance? How does a student's hair length affect these abilities to learn? If these things are not disruptive, why are they being prohibited? Many students, including some of my friends, feel that these rules unfairly limit personal expression. Whether a person is LGBTQ+, gender non-conforming, or simply prefers a different style, they should be able to attend a school without being singled out by rules that do not appear to affect learning or safety. Students should be judged by their character, their behavior, and their academic performance, not by whether their hair is dyed, whether they wear baggy clothing, or whether they express themselves differently from someone else. Students worry about bullying, violence, mental health, and whether schools are responding appropriately when serious concerns are reported. Our district has experienced tragedies that have deeply affected students and families. Those events have led to many of us asking whether enough is being done to keep students safe. When students see the district proposing detailed rules about hair, clothing, and overall self-expression, it can feel like appearance is receiving more attention than the issues that matter most. I am not asking for the absence of standards. I am asking for priorities that reflect the concerns students face every day. If these changes move forward, I hope the board will explain why they are necessary, what evidence supports them, and how they will benefit students academically or improve safety. Thank you for your time and for listening to Student Voices.
Thank you, Kaya, and I apologize for pronouncing your name incorrectly. Our next speaker is Brenda Lopez. Welcome, and you may begin when you're ready.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Rodriguez, you did offer some people to help me, and student services is no help. She didn't the first time some issues occurred, neither was she this time. So there's a bunch of students here. I just wanted to let these kids know that there is a Title IX for those students that have ever been sexually assaulted, or have had any kind of dating violence. That way they can talk to someone, because I don't think these students know. Right now that they're discussing how they wear their clothes or what they wear, I do agree on all that revealing clothes that I think should stop. All the short skirts and all the other half of their body sticking out, I disagree with that. I do appreciate the teachers that were speaking up on what they actually see and what they have to deal with. But there's other things behind that, like that sexual assault. There's students that are in their classroom, the same classroom that they're in with drug dealers, rapists, molesters. Now you're creating a dress code. You're going to send them to point where they're going to be, again, around all these sexual predators, drug dealers, and all these other people that shouldn't even be around the good students. So I'm asking y'all to look, pay attention. What are y'all going to do when you start sending, because there's a bunch of children that are going to point just because they had their phone out, just because they picked somebody else's vape that wasn't even theirs, but they got sent to point instead of the person who owned it. Now they're going to be around all this behavior that they are not accustomed to or not familiar with, don't know how to deal with being harassed by sexual predators or someone who's trying to sell them a drug. I think that's a bigger issue, and they need more protection in different avenues. There used to be different training for kids to have training before they go to the interview to know what they wear. There's a different aspect of, I see people in suits, and that's the way they're supposed to dress when they go for an interview. So there's a lot of things that the schools are lacking that need to be improved before y'all change the dress code. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Speaker number 10 is it Adriana Lopez? Last name's Lopez. Welcome.
A little short there. Good evening. My name is Adriana Lopez, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I understand the purpose of the dress code. Schools should be maintaining a respectful learning environment and trying to maintain standards. However, my concern is not with having standards, it is with whether our current standards are fair, consistently enforced, and reflective of today's students. Many of the expectations in the proposed dress code were created years ago during a time when student expression looked very different. Today's students are growing up in a generation that values individuality and creativity. Oh, excuse me. Today's students, blah, blah, blah. As our students continue to change, our policies should be willing to grow alongside them. Throughout middle school, I expressed myself through colored hair, colorful clothing, and bold makeup. As I've gotten older, piercings have become another way to express my identity. None of these choices affected my ability to learn, participate, or contribute positively to my school community. They simply allowed me to develop confidence while discovering who I was. Unfortunately, dress code enforcement has not always felt consistent. I've seen students wearing nearly identical clothing receive completely different consequences. In many cases, it appears that enforcement depends on the clothing. It depends less on the clothing itself and more on how it fits on a student's body. Policies should be applied fairly and objectively to every student. When enforcement feels inconsistent, students lose confidence in the system that is supposed to support them. I also believe that our district continues to respond to student behavior by increasing punishment instead of modernizing outdated policies. We have already seen this pattern with our district's response to cell phone use. Across many Texas districts, repeated violations have led to increasingly severe disciplinary consequences, repeated suspension, and alternative placement. While accountability is important, increasing punishment alone does not teach responsibility. Too often, it removes students from the classroom instead of addressing the behavior in a meaningful way. I fear the same philosophy is being applied to our dress code. I ask you to remember that the students sitting in your classrooms today will become tomorrow's teachers, nurses, engineers, business owners, and leaders. They deserve policies that prepare them for that future, not policies that ask them to leave their individuality at the classroom door. The purpose of education is not to create students who all look the same. It is to prepare individuals who are confident enough to make a difference. If our goal is to ready our students for tomorrow, then our policies should not remain rooted in yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Our next speaker is Patrick Perdome. Welcome, sir.
Thank you to the board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I stand before you tonight as the National Field Director of the National High School Conservatives of America, the 15th politically ranked conservative organization in the globe, and as the Texas Coalition of Republican Clubs Youth Director. But when the politics is aside, I come to you also as a product of Goose Creek. Goose Creek raised me, and I'll be honest, I didn't graduate under this exact dress code or under this superintendent. We didn't have this standard when I walked these halls, but that doesn't make it wrong. It means this district is finally catching up to what a lot of families in this district have wanted all along, and for that, I thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Now, there's been a lot of noise this week calling this policy discriminatory. Here's the truth. The superintendent has already made his decision. This is going to be the new standard. And for the people still upset about it, I'll say it plainly, get over it. This is the reality these students are living in. And the sooner this community accepts that, the sooner we can focus on what actually matters, which is raising students to be ready for the real world, and it starts with policies like this. Standards and dress codes are everywhere, from the minimum wage job flipping burgers at the McDonald's to the six-figure office job downtown, military, or even the oil and gas industry that we have here in Baytown, Texas, somebody is going to tell these students how to present themselves. That is not oppression, that is life. The sooner we teach them that, the better we prepare them. See, we live in a moment where every institution in America is being pressured to pretend there is no difference between a man and a woman, a boy and a girl. Goose Creek doesn't have to bow to that pressure. This district can be one of the places in this state, in the great state of Texas, that still says out loud what most families already believe at home. With this wonderful new policy, I think about Proverbs. Train up a child in the way that he should go. That is a son, a daughter, each one raised with intention to be what our Creator intended them to be. This policy isn't about hair length. It's about whether this board still believes boys should be raised to be men and girls should be raised to be women with dignity, discipline, and pride in who God made them to be. Texas didn't get built by institutions that were afraid to hold the line. Goose Creek doesn't have to be afraid either. I'm asking this district to hold firm, not because it's easy, but because it's right. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Perdome. Our next speaker is Amarasi Lewis. I apologize in advance. Welcome, Ms. Lewis.
My name is Miracle Lewis. Just to correct you, I go by my middle name, Grace, with a Y. I'm a former graduate of Robert E. Lee High School. I'm standing here today because I recently heard and seen posts on social media about this new dress code policy. According to the presentation from July 7, 2026, this dress code was revised. Male students are prohibited from wearing piercings, having long hair, wearing styles like ponytails or pigtails, wearing oversized clothing, makeup, polished nails, feminine clothing like dresses or skirts, and baggy jeans. They are also prohibited from having facial hair, dyed hair, or tattoos. I'm concerned about gender expression because there are students who identify themselves as LGBTQ. From my perspective, this new policy is going to affect students' rights to express themselves, which they have the right to do so under the First Amendment. I hate to be rude, but this dress code is sexist, homophobic, and transphobic to all students in Goose Creek, including LGBTQ students. I don't support this policy at all because in this matter, clothing is not the problem. The problem is not focusing on student safety and mental health. Students are getting hurt. Students are getting bullied to the point of suicide. Students are vaping in the restroom and bringing weapons to school property. This dress code is not going to help or benefit current and future students. Students should have the freedom and the right to express themselves and wear whatever makes them happy instead of being punished for their appearances. And also focus on serious issues like fighting students vaping, abuse, sexual misconduct, bullying, discrimination, or any source of harassment. Because safety isn't optional. Safety is students' #1 priority. Students deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, dignity, grace, and compassion. They deserve to feel safe and secure while in the classroom. Why? Because they're kids, and they deserve to feel safe. They deserve to be happy and have fun, because let me tell you this, they're not going to be kids forever. So please let students express themselves, because I'll say this again one last time. They have a right to, and they have First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Miracle, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name as well. Our next speaker is Avery Holloway. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Avery Holloway. I'm a 17-year-old Parkers Hill class of 2027 early graduate. And I've come up here to say that I'm in full support of the changes being made in the GCCISD dress code. Before I get started, to the students, I make do year after year under strict dress code. As you can see, I'm well out of dress code. I have the entire summer, breaks, weekends, even as soon as I'm dismissed from school to go out however I like. The biggest message that I can give to GCCISD students here tonight, as a student who faces this dress code every year, is that school is supposed to prepare us for the real world. And the reality is, most jobs have dress codes. Whether you're going to college, joining the military, or entering the workforce right out of high school, you will be expected to present yourself professionally and at a high level. Learning that now isn't a punishment, it's preparation. And with that being said, Dr. Rodriguez, when the dust settles and the noise falls, believe me, you have the support of this community. Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Our final speaker for the evening is Gabrielle McNally. Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent and members of the board. My name is Gabriel McNally, and I am a student in Steward Tech career. And I am speaking tonight regarding the 6.8.3 on the agenda, the proposed district appearance standards. I am urging this board to reject the proposal provisions for the dress code. The district's own presentation slide proudly labels these changes as introducing more gender-specific restrictions in 2026, creating policies that explicitly discriminates based on a sex is a massive step backwards, and it exposes our district to serious federal Title IX vulnerabilities. A part of the revised draft policy singles out male students by completely banning earrings, makeup, nail polish, and facial hair. Under a federal law, a public school district cannot maintain rigid grooming restrictions based on purely gender stereotypes. What is permissible for one student must be permissible for all. Singling out male-identifying students who chooses to wear nail polish, makeup, or jewelry does not absolutely nothing to improve our academic outcomes. It only serves to police self-expression and isolate students. Furthermore, the shift from allowing groomed facial hair and non-disruptive hair colors to completely prohibiting them entirely unjustified. The previous policy worked perfectly fine as well. Forcing students to clean shave ignores the fact that genetics, age, and cultures differ. For many students, forced daily shaving causes severe skin irritation and medical issues. Finally, the restrictions targeting oversized or baggy clothing unfairly penalizes students based on their body types or financial situations. Many family purchases clothing slightly larger so that students can grow over them during the school year. By passing these rules, we are forcing teachers and administrations to stop focusing on education and instead act as a clothing police. Measuring shirts, straps with their fingers and inspecting boys' fingernails is not something that should be our priority. Our school faces real challenges upon safety issues, but a student's hair color and nail polish or earring is not one of them. Please reject this regressive draft and replace it with a dress code that respects all students or consider not changing the dress code at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNally. That concludes citizens' participation. Mr. Foxworth, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, I think this is going to be worth it. Let's reintroduce at this time Dr. Espinoza, Director of Education Foundation and Partnerships, and once again, Mrs. Lewis, ExxonMobil Baytown Area Socioeconomic Manager. Go ahead.
President Campese, members of the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Rodriguez. Tonight, we are pleased to present for your consideration the acceptance of a $160,000 donation from the ExxonMobil Foundation to Goose Creek CISD. This donation is actually part of a historic $180,000 grant awarded to Goose Creek CISD, the largest grant from the ExxonMobil Foundation that we have ever received in our district. So while the board is accepting the $160,000 portion designated for the district tonight, an additional $20,000 will be retained by the GCCISD Education Foundation to support this year's district-wide STEM exploration and family engagement initiative. So together, these investments will strengthen our elementary science instruction, support fifth grade science achievement, and expand hands-on STEM learning opportunities for thousands of our students and their families. So the Education Foundation is incredibly grateful to the ExxonMobil Foundation for their long-standing partnership and continued investment in the students of Goose Creek CISD. Their generosity is going to have a long-lasting impact on STEM education, and it will also help inspire the next generation of innovators and problem solvers.
Can we give one more round of applause to Exxon for that donation? Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mr. Foxworth. We made it official. Moving on with the agenda, we'll move on to item number 5, approval of minutes. Prior to this meeting, the board was presented with a draft copy of the June 15, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Brought-Timms and a second by Mrs. Guy to approve June 15, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing 5 for and 0 against, that motion passes. We'll move on to item number 6, discussion items. Superintendent reports. Dr. Rodriguez, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we have 4 reports. We have optional flexible school day program, followed by District of Innovation amendments. Next, we have the district dress code, and last, we have a monthly financial update presentation. And at this time, we have the team preparing for the optional flexible school day program presentation.
Okay, good evening. I'm Kevin Foxworth. I want to introduce Miss Alicia Brooks, Principal of Peter E. Holland Empower Academy. We're going to go over the optional flexible school day program, or as you will commonly see, OFSDP, referred to several times throughout the presentation. Optional flex day is not anything new that the district has been doing this with Peter E. Empower Academy for the last 10 plus years. Okay. Okay, so what is OFSDP? It is a program under the Texas Education Code that allows school districts to provide flexible instructional schedules for students who are having difficulty succeeding consistently in a traditional school day under a traditional bell schedule. So it allows some flexibility is what it does. It's a program. It's not intended for all students. It does not replace the traditional instructional program. We believe more minutes, more time on task, that's what students need. The majority of our students need that. Okay? What this program does, it's a targeted intervention that's designed for eligible students whose circumstances prevent them from having consistent success in a traditional bell schedule. Okay, that's what the Flex Day is about. So instead of relying solely on attendance, average daily attendance set at a specific time each day, for example, 10 o'clock in the morning, check, Johnny was there, so check, we get funding, or 10 o'clock in the morning, the ADA time bell rings, he is not there, we don't get funding. That is the traditional ADA bell schedule. What this Flex program does, it allows those eligible kids, again, selected students, to earn attendance based on documented instructional minutes. And that's how you generate the same amount of funding for that kid as a traditional bell schedule student. That's what Flex is. All right? Why do optional flexible school day? Approximately 75,600 operational minutes are required during a school year, and funding is earned on ADA. It's earned on that daily attendance. It's about 1,260 hours per student for a year, and you get that funding. Under Flex, you can see that an eligible student earns a full year of ADA after completing 43,200 documented instructional minutes, which is about 720 hours a year. So because the funding is based on instructional minutes and not the average daily attendance, it allows those flexible schedules for those selected students while still generating the same annual ADA for those kids.
Okay, so who does this serve? Like we said, we've been doing it at Peter Highlands for quite a few years now, but it's meant for students that are at risk of dropping out. That's what we've been using this for. Need a flexible schedule due to traditional school days not meeting their needs. Need to recover attendance or course credit, and then attend approved innovative or early college campus. So those are what it's intended for, the state intends optional flex for. The key point is this is a district-initiated situation, so it's not a parent can come in and say, I want my child on flex. It is on a campus and a family team decision. Takeaways for this is that, again, for most students, flex is not meant for them. It's meant to be viewed as an intervention or last resort to help our students maintain the instruction. That's what it is for, is to get our students the instruction they need. When they're missing their time at school, we can allow them to come back either evenings or during the day or Saturday, Sunday, depending on what our schedules are, even during the summer, to maintain some of those instructional minutes back and still receive funding for that. So again, it's not a replacement for regular school day. So we do have some scenarios. There's tons of them out there, so we narrowed it down to 2 of them for you. One example is for our campus. Specifically, we recover a student who's dropped out, maybe dropped out for 6 months, maybe dropped out for a year. We were able to convince them to come back to school. But at that time, if they've been out for a year, they already have had a full-time job supporting either their family or themselves. And so we're trying to get them to come to school for a few hours so that we can at least get them their credit so that they can graduate while they can still maintain a full-time job and support their family that they have at that time. That's one specific example that we have on our campus. Another one is we have a 7th grade student that returns from a 6-week hospitalization. Doctor may release them, but the student's health is not fully recovered where they can make a full 8-hour day. With the help and discussion with the campus, they can work out a flexible schedule for that student until they can gain their strength to be able to come to the full day, where they can still gain full ADA for those 4 hours, 5 hours they come each day, until they can fully maintain a full 8-hour day.
Okay, the Flex Day financial impact. You can see ADA for average on this is $6,215 per student. You can see if we take just 10 kids, you can see it's $62,000. If we can get over 100 students on this, same amount of funding on Flex, it's over $500,000. So the financial impact is just tremendous and able to recoup funding for students who are having those scenarios. They fall into those routines. So it's that dropout recovery student. They get busy working. They set that schedule, and we can recover them, but they need that flexible schedule in order to do that. We can still generate that funding from them. Okay, so the recommendation from the district, the administration recommends, and this is what's different. We are recommending that the Flex Day program go district-wide to all campuses, okay, by designating every campus as an optional flexible school day program. The emphasis is on the early college high school impact, and it's on Peter E. Highland, okay? For a good majority of all those campuses, those students are going to be under traditional bell schedule, traditional ADA bell schedule, that regular traditional schedule. However, you do have some circumstances and unique scenarios that could benefit those students, and we can still generate funding for them. Okay? And then the last slide, I wanted to show you the districts that are participating. This is present of June 2026. This is a list of the districts that do flexible school day program according to TEA. When you look at the campuses on many of these, like on these districts, you see elementary, middle school, junior school, high school, you see early college high schools, and you see alternative schools as well. As a matter of fact, when you list all the on the website, there's 11 pages of campuses because every campus is listed out. So that's how many districts and campuses are using this program. All right, we'll take any questions.
All right, I'll open it up for questions.
I have a you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Boxworth and Ms. Brooks, thank you for this information. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for the information that you presented to us. And as I was reviewing it prior to your presentation, did have a few questions, and you did answer those, so thank you for that. But my only concern, I know that it's targeted, and we've been doing it at Peter E. Holland, and that's been working great. And in the past, one thing is, in the other levels of school, like if we have an elementary kid that has been out for lengthy illness, have we been doing this before, or what practice did we have prior to this?
Go ahead.
We've not been doing it at the elementary campuses at this time. I know that there are other options, as in homebound. We've even utilized virtual if the student was able to be with us for virtual. But that would mean they'd unenroll and come enroll to virtual, and then they'd have to be dedicated for at least a semester with us before they can return. So that was kind of a big change in that student already. They're going through changes with the hospitalization, and then they're having to change friends and their situation where they're at.
So this would be in place, and that student would just roll right into this program if it's on all the campuses,
yes,
is what you're saying.
Yes,
so wouldn't have to change and have to unenroll
right.
and re-enroll into the virtual.
Correct.
There is some specific themes coding that they have to meet certain requirements, and it makes it just more, this makes it easy, this program allows it to be easier.
Okay. My next question, though, I know that in reviewing this a little bit, teacher tracking, that's a big deal. And we're changing to another program that we've been discussing for a whole year almost, I think. I don't know how long we've been discussing, but we're moving into the 5x5. So here we're asking teachers for more tracking and more data collection. So would it be on the teacher? That's the only thing that I'm concerned with, is that the increase of heavy workload for teachers.
Right, and I understand that for sure. It's a great point. The attendance clerk would house this responsibility as far as documenting those instructional minutes. It would fall upon the attendance clerk in order to do that.
Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
I have a question. So let's say the student doesn't meet the, hold on, I'm trying to find the number, the 43,000 or 720 hours, like in the traditional school year. Then do we bring them into summer school to make up the rest of those hours, or how is that gonna, and how long do we have? Like, what's the deadline?
So it is, they actually do it by 6 weeks. That's new with the whole new TSDS uploads for the data each 6 weeks. But so they kind of take their average. So for an alternative campus, our students that, if we're lucky, can get them to come to school 4 hours a week, we're getting a percentage of their attendance. So it's not a 0 or 1, it's a percentage at that time. So yes, we would have to come up with a solution, or each campus would have to come up with a way to make up that time. I know with the application, you are able to apply for summer school, so you could make up those minutes through summer school as well. That's not part of my discussion, but I know that is a portion of the application. So the campuses can say at summer school, Dr. Rodriguez, you've missed, 20 days. We need to recover some of those days from you. Instructional minutes, really, that's the whole purpose, is recovering those instructional minutes so we can get that academics that you missed out on the regular school year, whether it's intensive instruction or yeah.
I have another question. I just thought about it. So let's say we have a student that's hospitalized, and typically we don't provide homebound services if they're out of district, right? So let's say they're at Texas Children's downtown. Would this give us the opportunity to maybe allow them to complete some of their work? Like if we put them on the flexible school day, could they then complete some of their work remotely and then still count towards these hours?
So that's new. There's a new law that just came out, Senate Bill, I think it's 569, that actually has to do with virtual as well. That is not allowed unless you're a virtual or hybrid campus and you have it approved by the board. So that would be something that would have to be discussed later on. If it is a hybrid campus, then yes, you would be able to count that. But I do know Texas Children actually has their own schooling right now, so yeah, that's how that would be handled currently.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Ms. Tim stole my question. That was, what is the plan for the tracking of this? So I appreciate you answering that question. But I'd also like to make one other comment, and that was the very beginning of this presentation. What I heard over and over again was the success of students is the reason why we're doing this. And it's capturing those at-risk students that would most likely fall out of the system. Does that paint the picture pretty clearly?
Absolutely, President Campese. Yes.
Thank you all for the presentation. Any further questions? Dr. Rodriguez?
Mr. Foxworth, can you please share with the school board and the community the component that includes early college high school?
Yes, so those students that on the early college high school, they are often on a different track. So this is being proposed that we look at the seniors who are going to Lee College that are enrolled at Impact, and those students don't have classes on Friday. So instead of those students unfortunately missing class at Impact and not getting ADA on the traditional schedule, then if they were on the flex schedule, we could still generate that funding for them. So that is one. So the early college high school is one of the specific things that TEA lists the flex program for.
Yeah, the concern is due to the type of programming at early college high school, we didn't feel it was beneficial for the school district to lose money when it came to ADA. So this also has the potential to generate funding while there is a very unique schedule that is occurring at early college high school. The Friday is the day that is being targeted, because the Friday for a senior at early college high school looks very different than it does for a Friday for another senior at one of the other schools. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next we have Dr. Bollinger. He's going to be presenting the District of Innovation Amendments.
Okay, good evening, Board of Trustees. So like Dr. Rodriguez says, I'm going through some recommended DOI, District of Innovation Amendments that will be an action item for the next board meeting. So we're recommending the removal of 4 items in our District of Innovation Plan, or our DOI plan. Most recent legislation identified that there are several items and DOIs in certain districts, including ours, that are no longer applicable, so they're not enforceable if there was an issue with those. And so if you remember in May, we brought a proposal to vote on an amendment that dealt with our grievance policy and also with our open enrollment. And so when that was approved, we sent that to TEA, and they responded back saying, we're recommending that you pull these 4 items out as well, since they're no longer applicable. So I want to go through those 4 items just so that you're aware of them. The first item is a parental notification. And so Texas Education Code requires that when we have an uncertified teacher in the classroom for more than 30 days, we're required to give notice to the parents. We do that. We've always done that, so we have a letter that we send to parents when that's the case. However, this was included in our DOI plan, as well as with some other items that dealt with uncertified teachers. And so we had several items almost as an umbrella that dealt with how we handle uncertified teachers in our district, and we had some flexibility within our DOI. So this was one of those items that was also included but not really applied, and so we're recommending that we remove this item, which has no impact except for it sitting in our DOI and it needs to come out. Excuse me. The second item is related to a campus behavior coordinator. So Goose Creek currently designates the principal as the campus behavior coordinator. If you go to our website, you'll see that. We've done that for a few years now. But in our DOI plan, we have the flexibility of having a team, a behavior management team, serve in that role. Well, after the last legislation, we no longer have that flexibility, and so this item needs to be removed. Okay. The third item deals with notification of evaluation for special education services if a student's assigned to our discipline alternative education program. And so Texas Education Code requires that we provide parents with the process for being evaluated for special education if they're assigned to DAEP. Districts were allowed to exempt out of this. We're no longer allowed to exempt out of this, and so it needs to be removed. Previously, we had other systems in place for notifying parents if they have concerns or if they want an evaluation, and we continue to have those systems. But this is one of the items where we need to remove it from our DOI plan so that we implement that process. All right, the last item that we're recommending removal from our DOI plan deals with ejection from a facility. So if we have an individual, whether it be a student, parent, or community member who is disruptive to the point where they need to be removed from a facility, usually this happens in an athletic setting, but not always. There were certain requirements that had to go along with that ejection. Districts were allowed to exempt from some of those requirements. I listed those on the third bullet, so you can see that maintaining a log of verbal warnings, providing that individual upon rejection of the appeal process, and also posting the appeal process on our website, which we currently do. However, we're no longer allowed to exempt from these items, and so if an individual is ejected, we do have to follow this criteria. So we're also recommending that this is removed as well. Okay, a very similar presentation was given to our Instructional Leadership Council, who serves as our DLI committee. They voted to approve this unanimously at that meeting, and so our plan is to bring this to the board on August 3rd for a vote. As a reminder, anything that deals with DOI amendments or DOI changes require a supermajority vote. So that's at least 5 members have to vote yes for it to move forward. Okay, so at this time, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments? So if we were to sum this up in one sentence, we're just basically cleaning up our policies to align with new state law.
That's correct. They're sitting in our DOI, but they're not enforceable, so we're cleaning it up. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Last chance for questions or comments. Thank you, Dr. Bollinger.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Rodriguez.
All right, next we have Carrie Smith and Kendall David. They are going to be presenting on the district dress code.
Ms. David, I would like to, on behalf of the board, welcome you back from your leave. We're happy to see you back here again. We were in great hands while you were gone with Nancy.
Thank you. She did a great job. All right, good evening again, Dr. Rodriguez, President Campisi, and members of the board. I'm Kendall David. I am the Chief of Community Engagement.
Carrie Smith, Director of Student Services.
So today we're here to talk about district dress code. We're going to go over some of the proposed revised changes, talk about the why, and talk about some next steps. So first, why are we proposing revisions to the student dress code here in Goose Creek? A couple of reasons: student success, feedback we've received from the community, a balanced approach. We want to point out that this has been a collaborative process with principals and then ultimately district consistency. So for student success, creating learning environments where students can feel focused, feel safe, and be prepared for success. A big reason is the community feedback that we've continuously received. Requests to strengthen the dress code have been increasingly brought to district and campus administration by parents, community members, and staff. In addition, our district has many local advisory boards for our CTE programs, for our college programs, and ultimately there's been a big call for preparing students for the workplace and the expectations at these businesses that we collaborate with. Also, there's been conversations about possible school uniforms, but ultimately the proposed revisions that you're going to see here this evening really are a middle ground for establishing those clear expectations while allowing students to express their individuality. And then also, like I mentioned, we did have a principal advisory committee that really talked about gave us feedback that were reflective of campus needs. And then ultimately establishing clear and consistent expectations across all campuses to minimize distractions, enhance safety, and reinforce that positive learning environment.
So you have received the actual full dress code, but for this evening's purposes, we will go over the differences between last year and this year. So the previous version for under general standards prohibited tight, revealing, saggy, or baggy clothing. We've expanded that language to include excessively loose, immodest, and see-through clothing. Pajamas and slippers were previously prohibited. We've now revised that to add bedroom attire, beach sandals, pool shoes, trench coats, and duster coats. Prohibited offensive messages and symbols. We've added gang references and a broader disruptive language under our general standards. Under shirts and tops, previously we've discussed oversized shirts were prohibited. We've now put a definition on oversized shirts as extending below fingertips. The bare midriff was previously prohibited. We've expanded that to prohibit bare shoulders, backs, chest, and midriffs. And cutoff shirts were prohibited for boys, and we've added the open arm shirts underneath the revised vision. For pants, shorts, and dresses, previously fingertip length standards for our shorts and skirts, that standard was maintained. Shorts could not be rolled. That was not previously specified. We've now added rolled shorts prohibited. Leggings, jeggings required coverage. That requirement has stayed the same. Boys wearing skirts or dresses was not addressed, and it has now been revised to explicitly prohibit. For footwear, our previous version, house shoes and slippers were prohibited. We've revised that to add flip-flops, pool shoes, beach sandals, and steel-toed boots, unless it's approved or needed for a class. Some of our students at Stewart Career are required to wear those for safety reasons, depending on the class. Hair and grooming. In a previous version, hair cannot be disruptive. We added detailed grooming restrictions. Facial hair allowed if groomed. Now it is fully prohibited. No eyebrow shaved lines was in our previous version. We've expanded that to include mohawks, geometric designs, and unusual patterns. Previously, there was no restriction on hair color. We've now added unnatural hair colors are prohibited. In the previous version, we said that male hair length was not specified. We've now put a specification on the hair length requirements. Male ponytails were not addressed. Again, we've added male ponytails are prohibited. Makeup and nail polish were not addressed, and now we've revised that to include male makeup and nail polish prohibited. Under hair coverings and face coverings, hats and head coverings were prohibited. That similar language has been maintained. Hoods prohibited indoors. Again, that same requirement has maintained. Hoodies are allowed. They just cannot wear the hoods inside the building. Face coverings were allowed with limitations. We added language prohibiting the intentional concealment of identity, except for medical, religious, or cultural reasons. Our jewelry, piercings, and tattoos. Male students were allowed limited earrings. Now males' earrings were completely prohibited. A single nostril piercing had been allowed. All visible body piercings except for ears is now prohibited. Tattoos only if it was restricted, if it was disruptive or offensive. All tattoos and skin drawings need to be covered. Gauges and grills were previously prohibited, and we have maintained both those items. So to sum all that up, the key differences between the old and new versions: hair color, it was allowed unless disruptive. Now unnatural is prohibited. Male earrings, limited stud was allowed. Now it's prohibited. Facial hair allowed if groomed, completely prohibited. Tattoos, only offensive tattoos were restricted. Now they must all be covered. Gender expression was less restrictive, more gender-specific restrictions. Footwear, general restrictions, now specific prohibited footwear is listed. And face coverings was limited guidance, now detailed clarification. We have also added a medical religious exemption. The district and/or principal may grant an exception to the district's dress code and grooming requirements if a documented medical or physical condition, a note from a licensed healthcare provider, makes compliance detrimental to the student's health, or if there is a documented in writing religious evidence that the student's sincerely held religious beliefs prevent them from complying with the policy. And I'm going to let Ms. David.
Okay, so what are next steps? We're presenting today. We're, of course, asking for board feedback to receive feedback from you and your constituents on the proposed dress code recommendations that we've presented to you this evening. We are distributing a survey to get input for proposed revisions. And then we plan to have full ongoing engagement regarding continuous conversations with the student advisory board and parent advisory board to gather ongoing feedback and opportunities for improvement of our dress code throughout the school year. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but kind of a comment. So I saw several of the things were previously addressed in our dress code, but were not enforced. So I think that's going to be our big thing. It has to be enforced, or it doesn't hold any teeth, and it's going to have to be consistent across the district. And I know it's a lot of work on the APs, but it's just going to have to be done. If we're going to approve it, it has to be implemented with fidelity.
And I think, too, one thing to point out is if you notice, a lot of the changes are changes in language to be more intentional and direct regarding the standards. So thank you. Yes, we agree.
I also want to say I heard a parent address this earlier, but and I've mentioned it several times that if we're going to crack down on the students, the staff is also going to have to be addressed, because I've seen some inappropriate things worn by staff members as well. So hopefully everybody can get on board.
Okay, I have a question. So when would this dress code be implemented? And I know this, but I just want you to go ahead and elaborate on that.
It would be implemented for the 26-27 school year.
Okay, so August 13th. Okay, so in just a few months, this does not give enough time, in my opinion, for parents to prepare for something like this. Dr. Rodriguez, I know that you want to model the school district and, sort of have your footprint on it already, or your stamp on it. But I know that you come from a very small and insular community in the heart of Texas. GCCISD is not that. We are 10 times as big as your old district, and we are very diverse. And I think that you got to have at least a little bit of grace to help families get adjusted to the proposed new dress code, and we need time for more survey and feedback on these things. So if anything, just give it another year and we collect more data. I want to see this is what our improvements will be if we implement such a strict dress code, because I frankly don't see how this is going to improve academic performance. I would like to see actual data proving that as well. So.
I'll go last. Y'all go ahead.
Hey, you got me there. But I think that one point we need to discuss it without changing everything, because I've looked through it and some things that I don't totally agree with, because I was on the board when we made the changes where hair was not a big issue at the time. And I think you were here at the same time. Facial hair was an issue, always been an issue of grooming. And ponytails I look at it from the standpoint of kids with braids, and they got to put them in a ponytail instead of everywhere. So the difference there, you're saying a kid with long hair got braids, and he put it in a ponytail, and you got a kid over here got straight hair, and he can't have a ponytail, but he has to cut his. And I remember a particular coach who used to be here telling a young man that you can't wear that hair under my helmet. Number one, it's not your helmet. And then number two, if he's got it covered, then that's the point. I'm looking at some of these, but I'm not against the changes. I think that kids need to understand that when you walk out of high school and you go into a job interview, that you can't go there with purple hair and hair all over your head, and you're not dressed right, and your pants, you had to pull them up, or all of these things. So I'm for the dress code, but I think it's like anything else, you got to tweak it somewhat. Some people may not be for it, but in the long run, I think it would be better. They don't realize that academics is the same as going to a job. You know, you got to be able to, you know, work your way through both of them. And I'm for a lot of it, but there's certain things that we need to tweak. And that's the only thing I'm saying. We need to tweak it. Like we got the advisory board, parent advisory board, these boards that we need to look at and get a better understanding for that. So I'm not against, understand this, you know. You know, you can boo me, clap me, stab me, whatever you want to, but the bottom line is we gotta make some hard decisions, and this is a hard decision for a lot of parents because financially, you know, mentally, morally, hey, but we got to do a lot of these things, and some we just got to tweak. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Sampson, they chose to clap you. I'm glad. I'm relieved.
They don't.
Ms. Brottins?
I agree with everything that's been said in many ways, and I know that some things were added that I did have concerns about, and it was there in the hair grooming and things like that. So I like what you presented about the student advisory, the surveys, the parent advisory council, and we will continue to review those things. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not in disagreement with anything that's here, but just would like to continue to have that feedback as well. Thank you.
I'm seeing a pattern here. I'm afraid to talk. I don't know if I'm going to clap, boot, or nothing. Ms. David, in one of your slides, it's slightly different than what we had, so I would ask you to forward this presentation that you shared tonight with Ms. Garcia so she can send that to the board so we have the exact copy that was presented today. There were just a few little changes that I'd like to have a record of. One of the questions I have is you mentioned the survey. Kind of elaborate a little bit about that. Is that a survey currently going on, or is that something that after this is passed, it would, if you'll just expand on the survey real quick?
So it's a survey that will go out pretty soon. We're looking at ways to make sure that we have the survey in a manner where we know exactly who our parents are, who our students are, who are responding to that survey so we can collect accurate data. But you should expect to see that survey within the next couple of days. There will be a time limit, which of course we'll post on our website. We'll send through Parent Square. We will put in the Baytown Sun, all of the normal communication methods that we have. But we want to make sure we're getting accurate data, and that's always challenging when you have a community-wide survey. And so we're making sure that we have that, taken care of on that front.
Thank you for that. So the board will see that before this goes for a vote next month. That helps tremendously. I read through this proposition. That's what this is right now. Administration has put together a proposition for this board to consider. No decisions have been made to this point. I want to point that out. But the biggest thing that crossed my mind is we addressed in footwear, sandals, and such. Where do Crocs fall into that? I know 90% of our students, it's a rough number, wear Crocs. Is that considered a shoe or a sandal? And that just wasn't addressed. And if I have that question, I know many others may have that question too.
It honestly depends on how you wear it. If you put the strap up, it's in sport mode. If you put the strap down, it's in sandal mode. So at the elementaries, we always told the kids they can't wear Crocs on PE days because it's a safety hazard. The same reason flip-flops are. All it takes is somebody stepping on the back of that and they go flying forward down a staircase. So we can certainly expand or,
I think if we were to take a poll in this room, whether it's a shoe or a sandal, I think we'd have 10 different answers. So maybe we can look at that.
We'll look on expanding that language,
yes,
particularly with Crocs.
Can I make one other point real quick, Jim, on yours, whether Croc or shoe or what it may be? Let's always take into consideration of the district in which is the children that we serve.
Sure.
And knowing that we have to be maintained with the parents for financial reasons and economic reasons, and that's to look at our percentage of our students in our district. So be mindful of what we put in these things and how we're scrutinizing that. And then we do want to get something out. We're going to make this change pretty soon. Parents are already shopping, so we have to make those things in clear but where we're going with this. So that's one of the things that I put on the administration is that how we move forward is going to be how we do, but also take into consideration the economic built of our district as well. Some parents can only buy Crocs. That may be the only shoe the kid has, or slip-ons. But I agree with the other stuff, flip-flops and things like that.
Well,
okay?
One point I want to make is that whatever the economic situation, don't buy pajama bottoms to go to school in. You come to school in pajama bottoms and house shoes. I mean, you're not there coming there for education. You coming to flip-flop, that's it. So, I agree with that point. It's like, I'm old school, like, I put on some pants, some shoes, whatever it is, but no pajama bottoms, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, you and I do not disagree very often, but I do have to disagree with your comments tonight, and I want to do it very respectfully. When we hired Dr. Rodriguez January 1st of this year, we hired him to come in and look at our district, see what we need comprehensively. And my concern was how much would he do, how fast, and it's so much. And the reality of that has been, wow, you're just running with it. You're identifying what needs to be done. You're doing it. And in that regard, we didn't ask Dr. Rodriguez to wait a year to look at academic achievement. We didn't ask him to wait a year for all these other things. I totally respect your comments that it does put pressure on parents. We are a very socioeconomically depressed district, very high numbers. I do get that. But as a comprehensive plan that Dr. Rodriguez has brought to our district, it's been said at our microphone in the public before, if we want to be better, we have to do better. And that's what this plan is, to me, that's what it's representing.
So why wasn't this presentation presenting data that proves that this would be better academically?
For both sides of the audience clapping, for both sides, if I could please ask you to refrain from that so we can keep the decorum and the business of this meeting moving forward, I would appreciate that. Mr. Martinez, I don't have that answer. But as Ms. David said, they're going to do surveys and studies for input. I'm not going to argue it one way or another. I grew up in a district where, in my day, which I'm a lot older than what I look, I was called to the principal's office on a regular basis because I had razor stubble. And I was a very rebellious kid that didn't want to shave every day. But I'm now an adult that sits up here on this dais and I shave every day because it's the image that I want to present in a professional manner representing this district. And while I know that's not for everybody, it is something that is giving a direction and a guidance to our students. But my disagreement with you is not so much on the what, it's the timing. I don't believe we should wait a year. And I do respectfully disagree with you, and I do respect your comments. I truly do.
Okay, that's, and I don't completely object to some sort of dress code. I really don't. But when you are changing people's bodies, I think that there are a lot of cultural differences that we have in this community. As we've seen in Barbers Hill, this has become a very big issue before. And so I don't think that having, somebody whose family or culture dresses a certain way and telling them that they don't belong in our district, I don't think that that's fair. Or, growing giants. And if you're going to say, well, you either do this or you go to a different school district or to homeschooling, I mean, what then? Then we lose that kid. This is a great district, and I grew up in this district. I want to just make that clear to a lot of the people who spoke today about growing up in this district. This district created me, and our dress code wasn't as strict as this was. And so I think that, we create giants regardless of our dress code. And I think that it would be better to wait a year to gather data about the improvements to our academics, because that is what we hired Dr. Rodriguez on. And I didn't see that today, and I haven't been presented with it yet. And so to make such a drastic change for so many families in our community without data and without presenting it to the public, I don't think that's right. That's all I'll say on that.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on a lot of it, but we do agree on a lot of the presented material. I think it's safe to say that administration is listening. They hear our concerns as a board. Our goal is to find something that makes our district better in a manner that is fair and equitable. Are there any other questions for this panel? Mr. Sampson stopping with his two applauses. That's all we have, Dr. Rodriguez.
All right, next we have Leanna Price and Bridget Clark. They're going to be presenting the monthly financial update.
While y'all are settling in and getting ready for this monthly financial report, this is something that we started a little less than a year ago, and I want to thank you for the extra work you do bringing this report to us every month. It's very transparent, it's very open, and it allows not only the board but also the public to look closely at our finances. We didn't get where we are today by accident. It was intentional on your behalf and on this board's behalf. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Dr. Rodriguez, board members. We're going to discuss, as Mr. Campisi said, the monthly financial report as of May 31st of 2026, and then we're going to talk about the bond refunding proposal, and then we'll get into purchasing policy. And I would like to let our visitor introduce herself. She's from our financial advisors, Bach Financial.
Hi, good evening, board. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Allison Long with BOK Financial Securities, and I will be here to answer any questions that you may have on the bond refunding proposal that we have for you tonight.
Welcome, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Leanna. I have your...
Good evening, President Campisi, Superintendent Dr. Rodriguez, and Board. Like Ms. Clark said, I will be presenting the financials as of May 31st, 2026. And the financials are a little different this month. You'll see here we have a district financial dashboard. It's a high-level overview of all of our major funds and the district's financial position. So you can see at our general fund, we have a projected fund balance of $119.5 million. Fund balance reserve is about 45% of our operating expenditures, which is equivalent to 5.4 months. Our debt service is projected to have $42.3 million at the end of the year in fund balance. All debt obligations are funded. Child nutrition, we're projected a 12.5 month fund balance. That's 63% of our operating expenditures. Our capital improvement has an available balance of $1.4 million. Our 2019 bond has $310,000 remaining, and we're 98% near closeout. With that being said, overall, our financial position is strong. And again, the executive summary, all of our revenues are meeting expectations. Our expenditure management is within budget. We have healthy reserves, and we're on schedule for our capital improvement and bond. So for the general fund, I have a graph here that shows our amended budget to actual forecast. And as you can see that our revenues have exceeded the amended budget are projected to exceed the amended budget by $9.7 million. Our expenditures are under budget by $1.9 million, so we have a budget to actual variance of $11.6 million. Our overall year-end net position, we're going to have about 12.8 increase to fund balance. On the debt service, financial highlights, we're forecasting at $106.5 million in revenue. Our debt payments were $105.9 million, so we're having a ending fund balance of $42.3 million. On our child nutrition fund, again, our amended budget to actual, our revenues are exceeding the budget by $1.9 million. Expenditures are under budget by $6.6 million. But we do have that slight deficit that we've planned with the actuals where we're going to have expenditures over revenue $2.2 million and our fund balance ending at $12.5 million, which is still healthy for child nutrition, and we are working on that spend down plan to get to the 3-month reserve in the upcoming year. So on our capital improvement fund, currently we have two categories of projects going. We have facility improvements that include HVAC, chillers, and there's a welding, the welding ventilation project, sorry. That's about $325,000, and we have safety and security projects going of $290,000 currently, and we have $1.4 million available to still allocate towards projects. On our bond financials, we have $310,000 remaining. We have some strong stewardship in the bond funds right now, and we're 98% complete.
Okay, now we'll move to the refunding bonds proposal segment, and I'll try to make this short and sweet, but we would like to give you some history on our management of our debt service and our debt service bonds and interest. If you add up everything that we have saved the district since 2006 over the last 20 years, it's $59.425 million we've saved taxpayers in 20 years' time from the management practices that we've put in place to optimize our bond carrying costs. Yay. And here this just illustrates the principal is in the dark blue on the chart, and then the interest payments portion is in the off-white. And then you can see we have a principal outstanding of about $506.6 million. And we've still continued to maintain our strong ratings of AA2 by Moody's and then AA by Standard & Poor's and Fitch. And on this next slide, I'll just share that we're going to refund. We're going to have a proposal, or excuse me, an action item later on in the meeting to approve the order authorizing us to move forward with the refunding. Refunding is just like a refinancing. And so all these higher interest bonds that we had, like this series is from 2014B, and that's back when interest rates were much higher, right? And so now that those are becoming callable, we are taking the opportunity to capitalize on that and get the lower interest rates. So with that, we're going to go from 4% to 3.6%, and it's going to save taxpayers almost $7 million over the life of those bonds. So huge savings there. And then just to give you a timetable, so as I mentioned, this evening in the action item section, and a standalone action item will have the authorization for us to move forward with this refunding. And then we are looking to complete all the documentation by July 24th. And we don't know the exact date of the bond sale because that's contingent upon market conditions. So we have a little window there where we can kind of select what's the most advantageous date. And then we are looking to close on August 13th. And that's all I have on the refunding being proposed. And as we mentioned, Allison Long is here from Bach Financial if you have any additional questions.
Any questions on bond refunding before we move on?
All right, thank you.
All right, let's keep going.
Thank you. Now we're going to discuss purchasing policy update, and I'll turn it over to Sheila Cantu, our Director of Purchasing.
Good evening. We wanted to provide a little bit of background information on the two policies that you have on the agenda to approve. Back in September of 2025, Texas law changed, moving the purchasing threshold from $50,000 to $100,000.
Ms. Cantu, would you speak closer to the microphone so we capture it?
I apologize. I'll start over. We just wanted to provide an update as to why you're receiving the CH and CV local updates, because Texas law changed back in September 2025, increasing the purchasing threshold from $50,000 to $100,000. So the two proposed agenda items are to give the board an option whether you want to keep it at $50,000 or adopt a threshold between $50,000 to $100,000 or move it up to $100,000 to match state law. What that does is the $100,000 will allow state law, federal law to all match because we have different regulations when it comes to purchasing thresholds for federal procurements as well. Since state law changed, federal is allowing us to actually increase it to $99,999.99. But local has to change first before we can do that. What this change does is basically, or what this proposed change does is allow the board to make a decision on which threshold better suits the district. It doesn't change any oversight. If anything, the other update that we're doing to the policy is removing a statement that basically states that you do not see any purchases over $50,000 that are previously on a purchasing co-op, such as Buy Board, Choice Partners, and so forth. So essentially, you'll be seeing more purchases, cooperative purchases, but you'll still have the option to vote whether we purchase them or not. Hence, what leads me to the next item. You also have an item for purchases over $50,000. That is just a list based on last year purchases. It doesn't mean that you're approving the purchase. It's just an information item to let you know what purchases were over $50,000 because we didn't know which threshold you would want to go with. So we provided the $50,000. So that you're aware of, again, this is last year's purchases, though. This is data from last year. It doesn't mean we're going to do it this year again, but it's there for your information so you kind of get an idea of the types of purchases that are coming through. Anything else that I missed?
I would just reiterate that the action item under consent is the $50,000 threshold, because that's prior policy before you make changes on items 1 and 2. Is it 1 and 2 or A and B? A and B, excuse me.
But let me just make a quick correction. It is not under consent. We are taking those individually.
There's one item under consent. It's not the change to the policy. It's the actual, I didn't bring my agenda up here with me. The actual purchases over $50,000.
That's correct, but the policy changes are being taken.
Correct. Those are standalone, yes.
My apologies.
No problem. And there is that companion policy, CV local, which is just the construction piece by itself. So we've got CH local and CV local that we are proposing. We change the threshold to match and line up with state law now. But the item under consent is under the old $50,000 threshold, so that's what makes it a little confusing. Just wanted to point that out.
Which is also the current, correct? We're currently under the $50,000.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yes. So we didn't want to be presumptuous, so we brought it all $50,000 and above.
Thank you.
Any other questions on purchasing policy or anything else in the presentation?
Can you go back to that slide, please? I just want to focus and share with the board. There's two parts to this. The part that was concerning for me as a superintendent was where it says increases board oversight by removing the exception that allows certain cooperative purchasing contracts to be approved administratively rather than presented to the board for approval. We wanted to regress and go back to language that I thought was appropriate to ensure that the board was aware of purchases, because there have been purchases that the board has been unaware of because it's been approved administratively. And for the sake of the community understanding and being allowed to have the board take action on these items, I felt it was important to go ahead and alter the verbiage and take us back to what some of us have experienced in other school districts. And because of that, that is one component, is we want to ensure that the board is able to approve purchases from a certain threshold. That's one item. The second part is actually taking action on what that threshold is. Is it going to be $50,000 as it stands today, or is it going to align with the state at $100,000? So there's two parts to this, and I just want to make sure that the trustees all were aware of what we were trying to accomplish. So part one is going back to the way policy was written at one moment in time in this school district and is typically written in other school districts, to ensure that the board and the community is aware of the purchases being made, regardless of a cooperative purchasing contract. And the second part is going to be having a discussion on the $50,000 versus $100,000 component. The $100,000 aligns with what the state has shared with us.
I think we all like more transparency in board operations. So, good job.
All right.
All right.
I
don't have a question, but I just want to have a comment, yes,
okay,
about this presentation. I appreciate your little side graphics next to all the number sheets.
That's great. She did a great job with that format. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. And we'll have an additional moment to ask further questions on these as we take them individually as well.
Yes, sir.
So sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Are we ready to move on? All right. Don't go anywhere yet. We'll move on to action items. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, so the first action item is 7A, consider and take possible action to approve revisions to board policy CH local, purchasing and acquisition.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I move to approve.
Are we needing to fill in that number?
Do I have to say the 50 to move it from that?
Yes, right now, let's just get a motion on the table, and then, well, if we have a number, go ahead and present it with a number, and then we can take care of it in one action. So it'd be a motion to approve, and then a dollar amount between 50,000 and 100,000.
Yeah. Let me go to that.
And then we'll open it for discussion.
I make a motion to approve. I make a motion to approve that we align with the Texas legislature update component purchasing threshold from $50,000 to $100,000 to match our current state law.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Brought-Timms and a second by Mrs. Guy to approve it as presented, with the dollar amount being $100,000 threshold. And at this time, we'll open it up for discussion and comments. Anyone? I'll begin. I looked at this and I was in favor of keeping it at 50,000, and it wasn't because of any distrust or anything like that. I have a lot of trust in our administration, but I think we have gained leaps and bounds of trust with our community by opening this up and giving the board oversight to make these decisions. However, there is a flip side to that, and that is that with a $50,000 threshold, that does slow down the process on purchases between $50,000 and $100,000. With that being said, there's also the emergency clause that it does not slow down. My thought process was keep it at $50,000, and the majority of all of the items that were presented in our packet tonight, there are very few between $50,000 and $100,000, and the majority of those were plannable. So I think if we were to keep it at $50,000 and look at all of them and revisit in a few months to see if we really want to bump it up to $100,000, we can. But this is not a hill I'm going to die on. If the board is comfortable with $100,000, I would support that. Any other discussion? Let's vote on it. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing 5 for and 0 against, that motion passes. Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, item 7B is consider and take possible action to approve revisions to board policy CV local facilities construction.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
With the dollar amount, please, sir?
Move to approve.
With the dollar amount?
Oh, yes, with the 100,000.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second by Mrs. Guy to approve this with a $100,000 threshold. Is there any discussion? Discussion for me is ditto. Any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. Seeing 5 for and 0 against, motion passes. Ms. Cantu, thank you so much for looking into this and really doing a lot of work on the backside and presenting this to the board and really making this a lot better. Mr. Martinez, this is one thing you and I do agree on very much. Transparency is great, and this process makes it very transparent. Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
You're very welcome.
Item 7C is consider and take possible action to approve an order authorizing the issuance of GCCISD unlimited tax refunding bonds, Series 2026C, setting certain parameters for the bonds, authorizing the superintendent or chief financial officer to approve the amount, the interest rate, and price, including the terms thereof, authorizing the redemption prior to maturity of certain outstanding bonds, and certain other procedures and provisions related thereto.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Guy and a second by Mrs. Brought-Timms. Any discussion or questions? I only had one question, and that was, it's going to save us money on interest. Does it extend the length of the term?
It actually shortens it by 6 years. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but yes.
So you just handed us 2 wins for the district.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I asked that question.
And I would like to also add that it also increases the funding from the state. So we're capturing extra funds from the state as well.
Since you brought that up, would you explain just real briefly, high level, how that happens and why it does?
Yes, so the state provides certain funding on the debt service side. It's called additional state aid for the homestead exemption, essentially holding the district harmless for increasing that homestead exemption and thus taking tax revenue away from the district. So there are many levels as the legislature has increased the homestead exemption multiple times. And so what this does is, because of the different calculations involved in that, it maximizes the funding from the state in order to keep our revenues at that level. So you're actually getting about $2.3 million additional funding from the state.
So now that's 3 wins if you're keeping count.
That's definitely a win.
Thank you so much. Any further questions on this item? All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. Seeing 5, 4, and 0 against, that motion passes. And I think with that, y'all are probably excused.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all so much.
Next, we have item 7D, consider and take possible action to approve the consent agenda. And tonight we have 12 items on the consent agenda, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rodriguez. And in new practice, we are not going to read every one of these. The board was presented with these in detail in our board packet last week, so we are familiar with them and they've been posted on the agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled from consent agenda at this time by any trustee? Everything's good? Okay, what is the pleasure of the board on consent agenda items 1 through 12?
I move to approve 1 through 12.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second by Mrs. Guy to approve consent agenda 1 through 12 as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing 5, 4, and 0 against, consent agenda is passed. Moving on to letter E, board business. Future board agenda items. At this time, we'll entertain any requests from the board for administration to present moving forward. Seeing none, Dr. Rodriguez and Ms. Garcia. We don't have any of those today, so that's a good sign. We'll move on to board updates. Would any board member like to share anything board related that occurred since our last board meeting? I'll start to my right this time. Mr. Sampson, anything? Seeing 5 shaking heads no, we'll move on. The next board meeting will be August 3rd, right here, same time, same place, followed by September 8th and October 5th, 2026. The board will now recess into closed session pursuant to one or more of the following sections of Texas Government Code. Sections 551.071, .072, .073, .074, .075, .076, .082, .083, .084, .087, and .089. No action will be taken while the board is in closed session. The time is now 8:06 p.m. 7:07 p.m. No action was taken while the board was in closed session. We will resume the agenda. Line or item 7H. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Administration recommends that the board consider and take possible action to approve administration new hires.
That'll be the new hires presented in closed session, correct?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Mrs. Guy and a second by Mrs. Barat-Tins to approve new hires as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing 5, 4, 0 against, it's unanimous and passes.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Item 7I is consider and take possible action to approve outside employment contracts for administrators.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Brott-Timms and a second by Mr. Sampson to approve. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing 5-4, 0 against, unanimous, passes.
Item 7J, consider to take possible action to approve the superintendent or designee to expend up to $470,000 for the demolition of the former Harvest Time Church located at 1715 Market Street.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Barat-Timms and a second by Mr. Martinez to approve 7J. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hands. Seeing 5-4, 0 against, the motion passes unanimously. There being no further business before this board, this meeting is adjourned at 11:09 p.m. Thank you for being here tonight.
I do. That's it.